a lot of people, you don't even realize, I think you don't even realize that like you have skills or hobbies that you have in your life that other people want to learn how to do. Like maybe you're 50 and you know you're really great fisherman, and you have some tactics that no one else knows that you can put out a newsletter and charge very minimal money for, or like some kind of online or making YouTube videos of instructing people how to fish, and then you can use on the back end of that, you can selling fishing lure or tackle, whatever. But there's a lot of things that people don't realize that they're knowledgeable of. Like if someone tells me that they have no skills or hobbies like that, I don't really believe that. Like if you've been around the world that many years, like there's definitely something you picked up on that a lot of people don't know.
Over 1,700 new millionaires are created every single day in the US alone, and more than double that across the globe. They're people from all walks of life, most of them people just like you and I. So the big question is this: how are so many people who didn't inherit money or have any special advantages overcoming the odds and becoming millionaires? That's the question, and this show will give you the answers. My name is Jeff Lerner, and welcome to Millionaire Secrets. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Millionaire Secrets. Excited to be here with you. Got a new acquaintance of mine in it always sounds weird. I always say in the studio today. We're not in a studio at all. We're like at our houses or wherever you are. I'm at my office. But anyway, we're together today, and I'm excited. I'm here with Troy Osinoff, founder of Juice Labs, big Twitter influencer and computer super whiz and coder and all kinds of awesome stuff. And we're going to get into it and expose some millionaire secrets. Troy, what's up, my man?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Of course. Glad you're here. Appreciate you taking a break out of the busy quarantine life.
Of course.
And doing this.
So hectic.
Yeah, I know, right? We're all slammed these days. You're in Long Island, right?
I am, yeah. Usually out in the city, but our office is closed right now, so kind of take a break from the city to get some space.
What part of the city is the office in?
We're in Tribeca, in Manhattan.
Oh man, how did we not even ask this earlier? You know, I used to live in Tribeca. What, like specifically where?
Harrison Street.
Okay, yeah.
Harrison Broadway.
I used to live on this tiny little street called Desbrosses, right by the Holland Tunnel.
Oh, I know where that is.
Yeah,
not too far. It's a few blocks away.
No, it's not. That's crazy, man. Small world.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, all right. So here's what I like to do with the show. We are going to get into the nitty-gritty of what drives success and what it is. You know, the reality is there's like millions of people out there, hopefully every one of whom is listening to this episode right now as I'm saying this, or as they're hearing it. Could it be any other way? That's kind of meta. That is pursuing success, right? That's why they're listening to shows called things like Millionaire Secrets. And maybe they've cracked it, maybe they haven't. And if they haven't, they're wondering, well, what does it take? In my experience, and one of the things I love about getting you to do this is you find that like everybody kind of has some quirk or compulsion or neurosis, or it's like not even always the healthiest thing. It's just something that drives people to go beyond, frankly, what a lot of people are willing to do to find that success. And so my goal here is to find that for you. So why don't you, if you don't mind, do you mind taking us back, like how you got into this? I mean, for anybody that doesn't know, Juice Labs is a top-rated agency in New York City, which is a super competitive place. That being a top-rated agency in New York City is like being a top-rated restaurant in Paris or something. I mean, it's like not an easy nut to crack. So clearly very good at what you do, very driven, very committed to excellence, all the things that go with success. Take us back though, before all that, into just like how you even got into this whole thing, please.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of started when I was super young. Like I made my first websites when I was 9 years old. Yeah, I mean, there all comes down to I wanted to buy video games when I was a kid. And my parents said that I could work. My dad said I could work at one of his. He owned a nursing home. He said I could work at his nursing home, get paid minimum wage, and then I can work my way up to buying the video games. And I was like, well, that takes a lot of hours. Let me figure out a different way to do it. And it's very like hands on, and I love being on the computer. I don't know what it was about it. I just love being on there. And I learned at a young age that if you like right click on a page and hit view source, you can see the code of a website. A friend told me that. I didn't really know what it meant, but he told me that if you take the code and you put it into, I was on Angel Fire, hosting site at the time, and edit the code, it does different things. And I saw it was like a puzzle, and I was like, this is really cool. So I used to edit every line of code. I used to copy like Microsoft.com, any website you could think of, and paste in there, just edit line by line to figure out what every line did. And I was just fascinated by it. And then after I figured out how the basics of like at the time HTML works, I realized if I put something up online that like anyone else could see it. And I thought that was the coolest thing to me. But immediately I realized that a lot of businesses, local businesses at the time, didn't really have websites. A lot of bigger companies did. It was easy for me to make a website because it was all pretty simple back then. It was just a few frames and a few links, like, basic pages. But I could charge $50 per website, and that's how much a video game cost. So it didn't take me very long, and I realized that I can just make these quick websites for local businesses, make a few bucks, and turn into a little business. It beat working in my dad's nursing home, and it beat washing cars for the neighborhood. So I figured, why not? But from there, like, it really stuck with me that like I can make these things, and anyone in the world at any given point can see it, and that was really cool to me. So I started making like funny video websites by the time I got to high school, and I used to made a site called like Ban This at the time. Like everyone, like the local high schools near me used to go to it. Then I started expanding from there. And I learned how internet like traffic works, how SEO works. I learned how advertising online, how the ad space worked. And I just kept going deeper and deeper down this rabbit hole because I thought it was really interesting to me. I kept looking, like every time I figure out how like master SEO, but like every time I understood SEO, I'm like, okay, what's next? What can I learn next? There's Google advertising. How does that work? And my curiosity just kept me going to try to figure out all these different aspects of how all this stuff worked. Which led me eventually to, I realized that, I loved how like GIFs work online. It's really random. This is like, 2008, 2007. I like how I GIFs a lot at the time. And I had no idea how to make GIFs because I didn't know how to use Photoshop. Really random, but I got super good at MS Paint. I don't know why. I just used to go pixel by pixel editing instead of using Photoshop, I edit pixel by pixel, 800% zoom, and then MS Paint. I don't know why. But never learned Photoshop, and I couldn't figure out a way to make GIFs, but I loved looking at them. So I figured I couldn't be the only one with this issue. So I met with a developer and made a website called Make a GIF. The initial version of that, and later I partnered with my later partner Jared Lund, who we made a site Make a GIF, which blew up. And like we were like, from the SEO knowledge I learned earlier on, I made it so if you search anything in the GIF related field of like how do I make GIFs, GIF maker, making GIFs online, we'd always rank first. So we got to millions of people making GIFs on the website over the years. And from there, the company grew enough where it got acquired. From the acquisition, it gave me some freedom to do other things. Like my friend was opening a recording studio uptown, so I invested in a recording studio that won a few Grammys, which was a really cool experience. I found there was a bankrupt shoe factory in Midtown that overextended themselves to wholesale. So at the time, I was like, well, everything I've done in the digital world, let me see what I can do in the tangible world, because I didn't really touch e-commerce or anything at the time. So I invested in them, pulled them out of bankruptcy, and went direct and helped them go to direct to consumer only and pulled out of wholesale completely. And we got them profitable using influencers and paid social, which was back in the day before influencers were as popular as they are now. Did a lot of random stuff after that. Just kind of tried, like, I love trying everything new and trying different projects. I have 1,000,001 different ideas. I did everything from the Tumblr that went viral, that I actually ended up publishing a book with Penguin with. It was nationally published, and the rights to that book were acquired by Fox. I had a dare site that I was on Dr. Phil for, very random experience, about doing dares online. I was head of digital. Then I took my first job, head of digital marketing for the world's largest heating and cooling company, because I wanted to see what it was like working at a large company of 5,000 employees, doing over $5 billion a year in revenue. While I was there, I I got kind of bored doing HVAC stuff. So I started launching more ecom projects. I launched the first iPhone 7 case with a headphone jack built in. I did an Indiegogo for that, raised $500,000 and sold a bunch more before Apple told me that I couldn't do that. But I learned how tooling worked and I learned how production works and manufacturing in general. From there, I launched a bunch of different e-commerce stores, got the attention of Buzzfeed. Buzzfeed was getting into the e-commerce space. So I left that company and doing these projects and was head of acquisition for Buzzfeed for about a year, helped them turn like Tasty the #1 cookbook in the world in 2017, helped them launch a bunch of different projects. While I was there, I met my now business partner, Michael Lisavetsky, because over the years, we've hired multiple marketing agencies, never really enjoyed our experience. So we figured, why don't we make our own agency that actually has the founder and operators in mind and give a better experience that we've had. So we put an emphasis on communication. We put an emphasis on results, and like a typical agency is kind of throw more money at the problem if something doesn't work, where we try to diagnose root issues and help businesses really grow, and rather than just try to kind of get them for more ad spend. That's kind of a short-term version of my career.
Yeah, that's quite a story. Such a very entrepreneurial story, almost without any breaks. I mean, there's no like. Yeah, and granted, you seem like fairly young, but I don't know. I'm 41. I don't know. I'll show you mine. Do you mind showing me your
31? I'm 31.
31. Okay. So when you started when you were 9, so 22 years.
Yep.
So admittedly, you got online late 90s. It wasn't like the fad thing back.
No, it's funny. I actually just sent my business partner. I found my old Angelfire site, one of the first sites I ever built.
Yeah.
It's still hosted on Angelfire today. It's still online, which is pretty wild to see. It's like copyright 1998 on it.
Yeah, that
Is
pretty good. So even though you're young, it's not like, oh, well, he's young. He just, he got into it. When he got out of high school, it was a natural course. I mean, you were drawn to it at an age when a lot of kids are drawn to T-ball or something, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know like I said, I love being on the computer, and to me, it felt like a puzzle, like figuring out how to the coding, and it just kind of like everything I learned more kind of made me go deeper to want to learn more. Like before that, I was a kid that would take everything apart in my parents' house and drive them crazy. Like I saw a radio, I'd take it apart because I just I was curious what was on inside, how it worked. And then the curiosity, that was what drove me, I guess.
So they were probably grateful because I mean, if you're picking apart code and you break it, it doesn't end up, there's no mess on the living room floor, at least, right?
It's true. I used to make my dad drive me to Barnes and Noble though. So I used to go to Barnes and Noble and handwrite JavaScript code that I put in all the textbooks and go home and try it. So that's the only thing I bug my parents for, is just driving me to the bookstore, right, so you can just write down all these notes.
Well,
not messy though.
So what's I think obvious to me in your story is just the level of curiosity that drove you through all those twists and turns, and you had some nice hits. I mean, but it doesn't sound to me like an obsessive focus on, I got to have a big hit, I got to have an exit, I got to have a big payday. That wasn't really your driver. It doesn't feel like, right? No. It was more playful.
Yeah, it was definitely more playful. For me, I always, and I still to this day, something that I always done is just if I encounter any kind of roadblocks, issues, whether it's in business, life, anything, I try to figure out solutions, whether it's an application or it's just a solution in my head that would make sense for it. And I a lot of times kind of naturally just back into a business for it. Really random example, I would see people play Pokemon Go a lot. And I also see a lot of people going by themselves playing. And I saw people try to meet up to play Pokemon Go online. And my friend Pim and I, we decided, why don't we make a Pokemon Go dating app? So people can not have to go play Pokemon Go by themselves. And we made this viral Pokemon Go game app that had a few 100,000 active users on it, just because it's something something we observed, and we wrote it down and tried to figure out solutions how we can solve for these people going around playing this game by themselves. It's actually a game where you have to go out and do something.
Yeah, I love it. I love the just the, like you say, the curiosity and the problem solving and the practical application of backing things into business models. And, you know, you're not one of those people that's so creatively indulgent that you'll follow a thread that doesn't go anywhere, or, you know, that never pays for itself. Like, I mean, I like the practical aspect of it too, as because you're not really an entrepreneur if it doesn't actually, I mean, the definition, at least as I understand it, of entrepreneur, people that redistribute capital in the system from more archaic, less productive structures into newer, more efficient structures. Like, if you're not making any money, if nobody ever makes any money, you're not really an entrepreneur, right? So no, I love all that. And what I relate to is the fascination with digital technology. I started online in 2008. Before that, I was a musician. So I scratched all the same itches through music, which is an offline thing. And that was 2008. So it was before music was a very digital, you know, was primarily a digital foundation, is when I got out of it, because I was just so poor and so exhausted. I had to do something else. But I remember from day one with the internet and with computers, I wasn't an early student. I mean, I was 28, 29 when I first turned my attention to it, but I recognized it immediately for its power. And what I'm getting at here is, I saw it, you saw it, you own an agency. I owned an agency for 6 years. So we deal with a lot of business owners. Not all business owners think the internet is as cool as we do.
No.
Some of them straight up hate.
Yeah, a lot of them, I see them just kind of as a necessity at this point.
Yeah, and that's being polite, a necessary evil, some of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just another thing they have to think about when, like, a lot of, like, more like business used to be more kind of like, I won't say all business are straightforward, but like now you're adding another layer, another component of complexity to responsibilities to a business. But also, I always see it as like you're adding another layer of potential exposure.
Oh, you're adding so much potential power to traditional business, and so much optimization and efficiency. And I mean, you know, go through all the traditional structures of a business and find me any division of traditional business that hasn't been radically streamlined through digital technology. And yet very often I encounter, I mean, my agency was more of a higher volume agency. We provided like lower tier basic digital services, online reputation management, location data management, footprint management kind of stuff for thousands and thousands of businesses. And I mean, the majority of our clients, they hated the internet, and they kind of hated us by guilty, guilty by our relationship. And they were, we were a necessary evil to them.
What year was this?
2000. I ran my agency from 2013 to 2018. So it wasn't that long ago.
No, because I feel like the sentiment is certainly shifting. People are better, because I used to consult every now and then years ago too. So I definitely felt that. And I feel like the sentiment's definitely much better now. It's kind of, I don't know if they just, most people that felt that way kind of just accept it now, or they hopefully just see the reward and see the potential that it has, and the ease that it's doing to their their business and day-to-day lives. But yeah, I noticed the sentiment has been shifting over time though, thankfully.
Well, what it makes me think, and I think about this a lot, what's it called? The adoption curve, the diffusion of innovation curve, where you have what's it called? What's the very tip of the spear? It's like the radical, experimental people. And then you have the early adopter. I think there's the innovators, and you have the early adopters, and you have early majority, and whatever. I forget all the names of the bell chunks. But I always wonder about the majority of people who want nothing to do with the front few chunks of that curve. They're just like, nope, I don't like it. I don't want to know about it. I don't want to rock my boat. I don't want to be bothered, I guess. Because that's obviously not how you are. It's not how I am. I don't think it's an age thing. I mean, there's hip older people that are like, heck yeah, I want the new iPhone. And then there's other guys that are like, you'll pry my Nokia, out of my cold dead hands, right? What is that, man? Like, help me get it. What is that?
I don't. That's a really good question because, like, I definitely say it's not an age thing because, like, my grandfather, before he passed, like 2 years ago, he was on Facebook. He was like, he loved his iPad. Like, he loved tech. He was fascinated by technology. My dad's the same way. Like, I showed him a VR headset. That was like the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah.
But then again, there's people that are like my age or younger that just don't care. They they don't want the technology. Like I don't know. I was watching the WWDC, the new Apple event. And I'm like, these are devices that you guys use in your daily lives. This is like a thing that, like, you should be excited. New update. Like, didn't care. No care in the world. So where I'm the nerd that, like, reads every single app update because I'm curious. Like, if something that I do in my daily life is changing, I want to know what it is. Like, I don't know what it is. People just kind of just don't care, or I don't know.
Do there's a lot of negative talk around technology and the dehumanization and the changes, the effects it's having on the brain and the way it's changing the way people relate and connect and all this stuff. I'm curious what you think about that stuff. I mean, to the extent that to the extent there's anything new to add to that conversation. I mean, it's kind of been had, but I'm wondering if there's like part of some people that feel that and that fear it or resist it, or maybe they're right. Maybe it's like, they get it and we don't.
I mean, it's interesting because, I mean, people like always like for years everyone's like, people like are annoyed that people are glued to their phones, like want face-to-face contact and everything, which is like I appreciate face-to-face contact, but it's more interesting now, like, that we have like quarantine, everything, like we have Zoom and everything, so we have these digital alternatives. Obviously not the same thing, but I personally feel like it's still a great connection to have, to be able to see someone. Like, I still FaceTime with my family and I will not be able to see them. And I still feel it's like a great connection, but I'm a little biased because I've always obviously been more in the geared towards, I'm pro technology and everything. But I don't know. I don't think it's changing. So I think the digital connection's getting better, and it's making me in touch with people that I grew up with that I normally traditionally would never be able to be in touch with now. And I feel like it expanded my network of friends and colleagues and everything. So I'm obviously super biased here.
Yeah, well, I mean, I mentioned I lived in New York. I was living in New York when I met my wife, current wife, who I'm married to now, who lived here in St. George, Utah. We met at an event. We hung out for a few days. I flew home. She came here, and we fell in love FaceTiming every night for 4 months in a row. So
there you go.
I mean, it's not like you can't, like, really amazing, powerful things can't happen. I mean, so much so that finally I was like, screw it. I quit everything. I quit my consulting gig in New York. I loaded up a U-Haul, drove across the country because of a FaceTime romance,
There you go.
And I'm married, and there's, I mean, family picture right behind me, like 9 years later. So yeah, I love it. And I think from the, again, my audience is either entrepreneurs or a lot of aspirational entrepreneurs, maybe people that have a side hustle they want to grow. But I think there's two big lessons that I want to extract from your story in regards to that. One is the correlation between what the term I'm using is playfulness, like the lightness of your approach, and just like genuinely seeking innovation and progress and problem solving and creativity, and not being so obsessed with, 9-year-olds they're not like obsessed with an exit, right? Like,
yeah.
And that's actually so much of where it's hard to be successful if you're putting so much pressure on the result, because you can't connect, those connections can't happen in a stressed out brain.
Yeah, it's hard to take a step back at that point and actually see what the next steps of the business actually is if you're too in the weeds, just focusing on how do I make money, how do I exit, looking to, like, it's great to have, like, try to project out and try to have a future plan, but if you don't, like, you're not actually focusing on the steps to get there, you're never going to get to that. That exit that you're achieving.
Start projecting forward. Once you have a problem solution and you have a market match and you have demonstrated demand and you have viability and proof of concept, and you get pretty far down the road before you're like, okay, I see where I'm going. And I think so many people, I have a company called Entra that we incubate early stage entrepreneurs. We take sometimes people that have worked in a job for 30 years. And I mean, especially lately, our business has really grown because there's like people that either lost their job or suddenly they're thinking about what if scenarios that they weren't really worried about before. They're like, I want to learn how to be a digital entrepreneur. They find me, they find what I'm doing. And very often coming from that world where everything was about the next promotion and the next raise, but fundamentally the work wasn't going to change. It wasn't like you were going to innovate and create totally new, unprecedented value within your job description to get the raise. That's not what the quarterly review was based on. And so they come in, and that's a lot of times that's the conversation that has to happen before there can be any conversation about even making money. It's like, how are you approaching this issue, right? The work.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting what you said earlier too, is that a lot of people don't consider product market fit at all. Like they just assume like it's just going to work. So I mean, like I've developed like ways over the years to like figure out if there's a product market fit before like kind of putting all my eggs in a basket. And I feel like people don't do that enough. Like when it's great, like especially like if you have a full-time job, you're trying to jump to something that's a side hustle or take the plunge to like, actually go into the entrepreneurial world and grow a business. But enough people don't really look to see that a business you're building has a market to begin with. So like they don't like, there's plenty of things you can look at. Like you can look at Google Trends. You can just look at like anecdotally, like ask your friends if they'd use it. You can look at like search through social platforms and see people are talking about whatever you're trying to look for. You can search the terms that you're going to use in Google and see if there's anyone that's actually bidding on these terms. See if there's competitors that exist already. Like I'm personally a big fan of building out. I don't know if you're familiar with like vaporware. Like I'm a big proponent of doing that before you actually like take the plunge, like take the actual full step to actually build a business, where you build like a fake business just to see if there's any, like you build out a landing page to see if anyone's going to click and actually go through with it, like a fake purchase funnel, just to see if there's actually customers that are coming in, so you can estimate your actual cost per acquisition if there is any. You can take these like half steps before taking a full step to jump to making this business.
Yeah, I actually I wasn't a part of the business, but a good friend of mine had a whole massive subscription business that he built off of $1 trials that never actually billed anyone. There was no charge because all he wanted to see is if people would take the trial. And then, once he optimized that and kind of got his minimum viable funnel, then he was like, okay, this is worth spending real money on.
I advise even brands now to do that. Like, just because it's true. The old saying's still true, where you only have one shot of a first impression. So if you make like a fake, like a vaporware kind of site, like you can test anything you want. And then when you launch your final product and there's a market, how to message them, and like what kind of imagery works for them, you have the best possible first impression, and there's a market.
Yeah, that message to market match, I don't think you could talk about that too much in business. I see people miss that. Even people that talk about it miss it because they just don't obsess about it enough. It's like ultimately if you had to pick one thing, it's hard to pick one thing, but it's like if you had to pick one thing, that's probably it. To say, do you have a thing or not? And people that are obsessed with making money, and I'm like, don't get me wrong, I love money. I have awards that are called 8-figure awards. They're not called like sexy figure awards. That's like referring to a dollar amount, right? I love money
for sure, but
you don't get there if you don't get there without message to market match. And you don't get message to market match if you're always in a hurry to make money. You got to try all kinds of almost whimsical stuff sometimes. So as an agency, let's kind of like bring this onto the ground. So as an agency, you're having, especially I love what you said about your approach to being an agency of like, let's have good communication. Let's actually problem solve. Let's not, basically let's do the stuff that we're talking about. How do you have these conversations? Business owners, for very obvious reasons, are highly focused on getting to the part where they make money.
For sure.
How do you get them to think this way sometimes?
Yeah, I'm honest to a fault on calls with the clients that want to work with us. Most of our clients are referrals. We don't do like any really outbound kind of biz development. So clients refer to us, so they're already coming pretty warm, which is great. And I explained to them on the phone that like, that, the reason that like we operate differently than a typical agency, because like a typical agency, all they focus on is the metrics that are in like around Facebook, for example, in the Facebook ad platform. So they'll see how many clicks went to your site. They'll see how many conversions. They might be able to do event tracking and looking to see a little more detail. But most of the everything like really takes place on the site. And if if they're just throwing traffic at the site and kind of crossing your fingers it works, it's not going to work to the best it could. So what we do with our clients is we look at the full funnel of the business and look at conversion optimization on site. We track user behavior on the site. So we see at what point someone's on your site, they decide to make a purchase or decide to leave. It could be a review they read that decided to make them leave. It could be something in your FAQ section that made them go. And we try to pinpoint exactly where that is and test around it and optimize every which way so we can have the best possible converting website with the best click-through rates on Facebook. And that's how we've been able to get such good results for our clients.
So let me ask you a question. So I come from the internet marketing world, and there's a very, probably the largest brand in my space is a company called ClickFunnels. Big software, funnel building software. And their famous tagline is that websites are dead and that it's all funnels. I'm curious, that's something that a lot of like independent marketers and digital solopreneurs are like. I mean, there's people that are just rabid devotees of that philosophy. Like you even talk about, they would like dismiss you out of hand. Like this guy used the word website without an expletive next to it, so he must not know what he's talking about. It's like, no, he actually probably knows what he's talking about. And then but whereas big brands, big businesses, they haven't really gone full funnel concept. They're still building these really elaborate brochures. I'm curious kind of where you fall in that conversation.
I mean, we certainly build out landing pages for our clients. I think people kind of discount the website itself too much. I mean, if I'm building like landing pages with our clients, we're building out usually specific use cases and specific audiences that we're targeting, and that works great. Smaller clients kind of have more of a catch-all, which the website becomes. And there's a lot of stuff you can do within like a product page on the website that can address concerns. And if you really are paying attention to the pain points or the points of decision making where someone actually decides to go through with making a purchase or whatever your KPI is, you can really identify a lot of things on a product page. And it can be as simple as adding some kind of trust badges, some kind of press like authority, some like influencer name. It's like a lot of different things depending on the client and the brand. So I don't see it as so binary that like website or landing page. We utilize both, and it really depends on the client's size and their needs. But we definitely do building landing pages, and it's great when you're expanding out budget and going to specific audiences to address their specific use cases.
And so I'm going to ask a self-interested question. My education business, Entra, we've primarily been built through funnels, product-specific funnels, and even our whole user experience is sort of a linear ascension, almost a funnel on the back too. Which is really what an education, most education, I mean, even college is essentially a funnel of like stair-stepping you through their layers. But as we're looking to go bigger and kind of move, basically like out of zero kind of, expansion of our total value and total business and total reach, and not just, money, but like influence and reach and exposure and brand and all this stuff. It feels like you kind of reach this threshold where, like you're saying, purely funnel-based thinking is too narrow.
Yeah, I mean, it's like for the broad visitor website are going to see your website. So like you got to like making sure optimizing your website is super important too. That's where people are gonna, if they're sharing, people aren't generally sharing like their funnels. They're sharing your website. They're sharing your brand name, unless your site is just completely a funnel from the .com side onward.
Right.
And then the SEO side as well, like for ranking within your domain, like you want to make sure that your site's fully optimized. Like that's what I was saying earlier. Like I don't see it so binary. It's like a website or funnels. Like I can see both working together very, very well. And that's what we do for our clients. But I just don't like discounting the website side, which I see most a lot of people doing lately. But you can turn your website into a nice funnel without having to be specific landing pages. You just have to optimize them accordingly.
Yeah, I like what you're saying. And the reason I'm sort of sticking on this subject is because a lot of, aspirational, entrepreneurs that will begin at least as solopreneurs, it's very easy to get hooked into a binary paradigm around that question and think, I'm just going to go all funnels. I want direct ROI. I want to send a lead and get a sale and have it be really nice and pretty. But over time, I think you'd kind of, assuming you want to start with the end in mind, if you want to have a really big, robust business, you're going to need to have a really big, robust presence. And you will cut yourself off at the knees over time because one of the things that the internet loves with all types of online presence is age. It's history. And if you get to, $2 million a year or $5 million a year or 10 million, whatever, and go, man, we have no hub and spoke type presence assets online. And we got to scramble and put all this stuff together in a hurry. You could lose a year or two of momentum.
Yeah. I mean, it's, having the single page sell, scroll to sell, long form page is great. It works. I think it's, for me, I always it's for how you're describing earlier, I see it as great for starting a business, makes it much easier. Just optimizing one page and then getting the sales and or inquiries in whatever your lead is, your objective is. But I see it as a good starting point, and then expanding from there. I don't know any businesses that wouldn't be necessary for to get a more robust website. Because you're probably going to expand who your audience pool is you're serving to, and you got to have to address every single concern, every single comment, whatever comes up.
So, yeah, I like that. I guess the point I'm not trying to force you to agree with me, but this is my belief, and it seems like we may agree that for people listening who are in that sort of startup phase, to not be too narrow in your thinking about this, because there's so much indoctrination from the digital startup, SaaS companies. And I'm not even just saying just ClickFunnels, but I mean, whether it's ClickFunnels or Lead Pages or, Kajabi or whatever, there's a lot of this linear thinking and binary thinking. And to not be totally sold and narrow, there's still a lot to learn from how big businesses do internet. And to start, maybe you don't have to start there, but don't wait until you need it and then have to play catch up. I guess that would be my statement. So
no, I agree with that.
Okay, cool. So I got to ask a totally unrelated question that I should have asked earlier. You said you had a site that got you on. It was about dangerous pranks or something, and it got you on Dr. Phil.
Oh yeah.
Was that a positive, Dr. Phil features young entrepreneur, or was it Dr. Phil as young troublemaker?
It's a healthy mix of the two, I guess. So when I had when I was in high school, I mentioned earlier, I had a site for doing for people posting funny videos and stuff. And I realized there's a lot of people online that were just kind of posting pranks and doing crazy stuff online. And they just kept one-upping each other on YouTube. And I was super young at the time. I was 20, 21. And I was why isn't there a site to get all these people onto one page to compete against each other to see who be the craziest, who do the most ridiculous things? So it was called Make a Dare, where I can just go on and dare anyone to do whatever. I was young enough to not really give much thought into the legal side.
Right.
I just kind of saw what happens. Thankfully, nothing got too crazy. But yeah, I was invited on to Dr. Phil and a few talk shows for that. He kind of brought me on to say you're putting people in danger, blah blah. And I kind of explained to him the first day I made on the website was to hug 5 strangers. It was not to do harmful things, and it escalated into some people doing some wild stuff, but nothing too crazy. And that was a really interesting experience just to see how it is having a video hosting site and doing licensing deals with True TV, Tosh.0, all these different companies. It was really cool. Definitely an interesting experience.
So, okay, begs a question then. I mean, I don't know what, I'm not an attorney, and I won't pretend that that I am one, but there's the whole concept of site hosting sites effectively are protected from user generated content. They're not responsible for the subject of
the DMCA.
Yeah. So I'm curious. I mean, did that apply in that case where you're like, look, I'm not the one making the dares?
It did, because so the DMCA's policy is that if you, and the same reason that YouTube, when you post anything, it goes live automatically. As long as you're not approving each thing that's going online, you're effectively covered within Safe Harbor DMCA. If you go about one by one and say this is okay, this isn't, then you're effectively giving authority to people to post or do something. So either it's not your trademark or it put people in danger.
Okay. I'm curious, what do you think about what's your position on that in general? People that say, well, it's not us. They kind of hide behind that to sometimes, sanction things that are a whole lot worse than anything you're describing.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because I mean, I'm a proponent of the DMCA. Like, I think it certainly gets abused. Like, people kind of doing, like, it's a very common thing on Instagram, like social channels now. People doing false DMCA claims to get either websites or social profiles taken offline, which is unfortunate. But it's look another side. Like, if like I had a company, it was me and a few people, and we had thousands of uploads. Even Make a Gift we had millions of uploads. I couldn't personally, like, we couldn't, even if we wanted to watch over everything, we couldn't physically. Like, it was just not enough like time in the day. So it's not really fair to the company itself to have to do that, like to monitor everything. So I think it's very broad right now, and I think maybe there's some things in place that could be taken to update it to better better monitoring systems, because there's better computer vision software and everything's out now to actually actively monitor. Like Make a Gift, like they applied, like the company that bought it applied some computer vision that prevented like nudity on the site. It actually works super well, but that didn't exist back then. So I think they can update like DMCA law, but I still think that it's a necessity if you want any kind of site, any kind of social media site. Otherwise it'd be dang near impossible.
Right. So what would you say to, I mean, I'm curious what you'd say. Maybe this isn't necessarily like relevant in your life. This doesn't happen in your sphere, but it's very relevant in mine. I'm 41. I've been online full time since I was 28. And so I get a lot of people in my audience who maybe are sometimes younger, but a lot of times older. I mean, my sweet spot demographic for my business is like 45 to 55. And some of them are like, I want to go on the internet. I want to build a viable business. I don't have like an innovation or a passion or even a subject in mind. I want the result of being a successful digital business owner. I'm curious, but they're not young enough that, or unattached enough that they can just like take wild chances and hope. Mm-hmm. They want something that has a reasonably high probability of a positive outcome financially. I'm curious, where would you steer those people in the whole online ecosystem?
I personally do like reading a lot of like this kind of stuff. I read a lot of books that I think I'd find like super helpful. Like anyone that like in that like that we were describing there's a book that I always recommend called $100 Startup. I don't know if you ever read it, but I highly recommend it. It basically talks about how at any given point, like that you can come with an idea, and like a lot of people don't even realize. Realize that like you have skills or hobbies that you have in your life that other people want to learn how to do. Like maybe you're 50 and you're really great fisherman, and you have some tactics that no one else knows that you can put out a newsletter and charge very minimal money for, or like some kind of online or making YouTube videos of instructing people how to fish, and then you can use on the back end of that, you can selling fishing lure or tackle, whatever. But there's a lot of things that people don't realize that they're knowledgeable of. Like if someone tells me that they have no skills or hobbies like that, I don't really believe that. Like if you've been around the world that many years, like there's definitely something you picked up on that a lot of people don't know.
Well, I very much appreciate that response, because I think you just tacitly endorse two of the business models that my education company teaches, which are digital course creation and content-based affiliate marketing. So I couldn't agree more. Well said. I like to throw that question really unprepped to just about every guest I have on the show that that comes from the digital side, because I get a really interesting variety of answers, but also a really telling consistency of answers, which are almost always, look, it's so easy now to create to create content and get traction to content if it's just good, authentic, value-focused content. It doesn't have to be highly produced. You don't have to hire juice labs to, process manage your content, at least not initially. You just start, right? And that affiliate marketing gives you an immediate way to monetize. But what were you going to say?
Yeah, it's funny because like even on advertising, like I always tell her clients are just getting started. Some of the best ads I've ever seen performed are just filmed on someone's iPhone at home. Like it could be a selfie video of you reviewing a product that you're about to sell. And like those are some of the best performing like ad creatives that you can possibly do. And pretty much everyone at this point has a smartphone. So I don't know what's stopping you. So just filming something like that. You don't need some crazy high fidelity video being shot. You have a smartphone with an amazing camera on it.
Yeah, I am right now. I'm gonna see if I can pull it up quickly. This is for the benefit of everyone watching on YouTube, because this will go on our YouTube channel as well. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, where's one? It's an ad that gets a huge amount of hate too, which is really funny, really fun. People are wildly creative in the things they say to attack me. But anyways, it's a video of all the ads I run, of the money I've spent. It's me and my hot tub.
I could tell you. Huh? While I can tell you while I was at Buzzfeed, we had a company called Homesick, a candle company, and we did this crazy high fidelity shoot, like photo shoot. Spent a ton of money doing like all the ads and everything. And while this was going on, like we went to the basement of the office and took a picture of a candle on like a lit a candle. Took a picture on the phone. Really bad quality. Like it was terrible lighting. The candle was kind of flickering. And because it looked so organic and real, like it was just it's like your friend uploaded the photo. It was our best converting ad. Like way outperformed. We spent hundreds of thousands on this shoot, redesign and everything. But this one picture of just on my iPhone in a basement with a dim light, did better than anything else we did.
And I couldn't find I didn't want to scroll forever and waste a bunch of time here. But yeah, I mean, my videos like me in my hot tub looking really horrible. I got like chest hair fraying out and whatever. But so
think about it. Like if you're like browsing through your feed, people at this point, a lot of times they're kind of subconsciously preconditioned to like ignore like ads. If anything looks too shiny, it's like, oh, it's an ad, again, go right past it. But if you see like you in your hot tub, it's like, oh, it's my friend. Like he's uploading a video, and you stop to do a second take. And that's something that's all it takes for an ad. It just gets someone to do a second look.
Yeah, that split second.
Because that's all ads are in Facebook. Is ads are just to get someone to stop in their feed. That's the whole point.
That's all it is. So the ad that you use, you said there was an image ad, a low quality image ad outperformed a high quality video ad. Yep. Right. So I think there's another
case. Yeah.
And so the one you spent a bunch of money on, it was, to be clear, it was a high fidelity video production, right?
Video and photo. Yeah.
Okay.
Outperform both of them.
I think that's another assumption that people have, is that even to be successful, you have to make videos.
Yeah, no, pictures still do well. As long as it displays your product well. But like I said, like organic stuff, like we always say, does super well. Like think about it. Like just think about next time you're browsing your feed and you see an ad. Like if you're gonna know it's an ad. But if you see your friend's photo next, you're gonna stop that because you think it's your friend's photo. Well, it is your friend's photo. But it just, like I said, it's a double take.
Yeah, I love it. So just so you know, I think I've asked this question of, I don't know, 40 consecutive guests, and literally every single person has given a variation of the same theme, which is go online, leverage some kind of affiliate product or, other link where you don't have to do the fulfillment or process the transaction or support the customer, and link it to content you create. That is, like, I think it's sometimes it's lost on me because I deal with it every day. What an unprecedented, like, earth-shifting innovation it is that anybody can go online with anybody, pretty much everyone in the world already possesses 100% of the production equipment required to be able to go online and create a thing that attaches to another thing, none of which they have to take possession of or have an inventory or employ anyone to handle, and make money. Like, right? I mean, it's the ultimate pop-up business. And there's never been in thousands of years of human history. It's never existed before.
Yeah, I mean, what else in time could you, in a matter of minutes, set up a store online that you can sell to over 100 countries accepting a credit card in minutes?
And so to tie back to where we started this conversation, or one of the early things we said in this conversation, just the way a lot of business owners still, as crazy as it may seem, 2020, 2020, that's embarrassing, like have this resistance to the internet. A lot of aspiring entrepreneurs or aspiring side hustlers or even just frustrated corporate employees have this resistance to the idea that like you can just go do this thing and have a business on the side when it's not a logical resistance. It's attached to something else in the human psyche or the past experience or something. There's not logic.
Yeah, I mean, I think it also could be that like you don't really, like, to your point, like we were saying like for a few seconds ago, just, you know, it's so easy, like not easy, but it's so quick and seamless to do this kind of stuff. But if you've never done it before, it sounds like a massive undertaking, and it's a little intimidating. I can understand that. So it's hard to take that first step. But after you do, like, there's so much that you can do, and there's so much opportunity. But that first step is always the hardest.
Yeah, and I'm saying this to be really encouraging. I'm not saying this like I want to criticize the human species. I want to encourage people. The juice is worth the squeeze. Like, you know, there was another thing that intimidated the hell out of all of us at one point in our life, which was going up to a person that we felt an attraction to and trying to have a conversation that might lead to a date and the Brady Bunch or whatever, right? But we knew that there was a payoff that made it worth pushing through the discomfort, right? Mm-hmm. And I think my encouragement to people is that, like, the same is true of this. Like, that's fine. The internet's scary. It could think of it as like that pretty girl in high school that you were terrified of, but it's worth it. You know, it's worth it. And persisting in it. This isn't a world, the world that you inhabit and the world that I inhabit. No, you are harming yourself, I think, in a pretty significant way to persist indefinitely trying to reject or duck out from or go around that world. Like, you gotta, at this point, you have to lean into it.
No, I agree. I mean, the way everything's progressing and the way everything is being digitized across every single industry, it's just a matter of time. So should really try it out, look into it, and realize it's not so bad.
So when people are ready, whether they've already got a thing or they need to post that first picture and get their thing going, and they want to hire, they want to talk to you, they want to follow you, to learn more, they want to hire your agency. Can you share with the world how they can come get much more of your big-brained insight?
Of course, yeah. So if you want to learn about Juice, the website's thinkjuice.com. If you want to follow me on Twitter, my Twitter handle is @yo. I post a bunch of marketing and business-related tweets in general. My Instagram's just my name, Troy. So yeah.
Okay, hold on.
To answer anyone's questions. Oh.
Yeah. Hold on. Back the record up. Your Twitter handle is Yo?
Yo. Yeah.
Your Instagram handle is Troy?
It is, and my Snapchat.
Okay, so my Instagram handle is Jeff Lerner Official, because Jeff Lerner was taken, and I'll admit I didn't even bother to look up Jeff, but I'm pretty sure it was taken too. How does one get Troy?
Troy, thankfully, was inactive, so I was able to get that one.
Okay, so you bought it on a secondary transaction somehow? No,
it was I never bought it. Just got it from Facebook.
Oh, okay. Wow, yeah, that's amazing. Maybe I should look up Jeff. You're making me feel like I really should look up Jeff.
Can't hurt.
Okay, and then Yo from Twitter, that seems like something. Does Twitter even allow two letter handles?
Yeah, you can have one character too. I had Yo. So Twitter was building their ad platform years ago, and they needed help from the ad marketing side, like feedback from marketers. So I told them I didn't want any cash or any money, just the handle at Yo would be great. And they gave me the handle at Dare because I had the Naked Dare site as well at the time.
Impressive. I think that's super cool. I mean, as somebody, I'm always coaching people on acquiring, you know, kind of staking out their, what we call their digital real estate and acquiring their brand assets and stuff. So I really appreciate good handles. And you've got some of the best I've ever seen.
I used to buy handles. The only time I used to buy handles was on AOL on AIM. I had my AIM used to be that guy. So I used to buy, it was like $5 for handles back then. So that's when I started, before buying handles was a thing, I guess. I used to hit people up, they'd sell them.
Huh. Wow. Well,
I don't know why, but I liked it.
I love it. I love the early fascination with this whole thing. I think this world, I would say I have probably a significantly above average interest to the point of passion with digital technology relative to my age bracket, you know. At least where I live out west. I don't know, maybe in New York City it might be different, but like I live out west. I'm a dad. I hang out with my kids and like, but I just think digital technology is so magical. And I don't know that that's the norm in my immediate circle. So I appreciate when it is. Well, listen, man, I appreciate this so much. This has been great. Clearly you're a super informed, astute person who's got a lot of experience that I'm gonna follow you too. I mean, just straight up, I'm a fan, and I hope that my audience will glom onto this and just be inspired, man. Be inspired by Troy and what it says about what's possible. And if you just kind of follow your playful spirit and don't take this stuff too seriously.
That's how I always did it.
Right. Cool, man. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for being on Millionaire Secrets. And
thank you.
We'll post, we'll set up the page. Everybody can come back and see this episode and follow you and all that good stuff, man. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching Millionaire Secrets. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and leave us a comment below. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you know whenever we release a new episode. Also, if you want to learn the fastest way to become a millionaire in the new economy, click the link in the description below to claim your free copy of my book, The Millionaire Shortcut. And don't forget, Millionaire Secrets is available on all the major podcast platforms as well. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you can listen on the go. Thanks for watching.